First action item is the approval of the 9/12 minutes. So I'm going to pass it to our parliamentarian to pass those minutes.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our September 12th meeting? And does anybody have any changes or amendments? Okay, in that case, can I move? I'll move to pass the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is our treasurer report. Unfortunately, you all know sickness is going around, so she is out tonight. Our closing balance as of September 30th was $158,000. I'm looking at our secretary. $158,946.32. Our closing balance as of October 31st was $153,792.75. And that's our closing balance across all of our accounts. We have a checking and savings account. The budget was sent out prior to this meeting. Does anyone have questions about the budget? Okay. I will move on to our PTA updates. September through November wrap up. Our All-Star Celebration raised $72,929, which was 145% of our goal, which is incredible. Because of that, we have sort of adjusted some of the fundraisers that we've done. We provided candy for trunk or treat thanks to our membership vote to pass that. And we've done away with our bake sales, trying to very strategically ask for things when we need them, and we recognize that you all went above and beyond, and so we're trying to limit our ask as much as possible. The chili cook-off was in October, and that was a great success. We had more chili donations than we've ever had before, so if you donated chili, thank you. Or any of the other accompaniments. We had teacher meals provided for conferences in October by Christy, which was Jimmy John's, which is always delicious. And then we purchased 60,000 pieces of candy. There were 36 trunks and a bus at our trunk or treat, and we almost ran out by the end of the night. So we went through a ton of candy. Coming up this month and into November, we have the iSTEM Fair. iSTEM applications are still being accepted through this Friday. We have 36 applications so far, which is awesome. Make sure you come on December 1st from 3:45 to 5 o'clock and see all of the hard work that the students have done.
Specifically right after school, so you don't even have to.
Oh, perfect. I didn't even recognize that, yes. So just stay here after picking up your students on that Friday and come and tour the iSTEM Fair. And they always do incredible things at the school, so make sure you come and see their work. The Giving Tree nominations are now open. You can nominate families or yourself anytime from now until December 1st, which is a Friday. Everything will remain anonymous, and you can nominate yourself or another family by emailing Dr. Ehrlich. Again, all of that remains anonymous through the office staff. PTA coordinates it, but we're never given a list of names. And so anyone that you can think of and need during the holiday time, please submit their name, and then they can choose to opt out if they don't want to participate. But it's just a really nice way for us to support our own community. The Giving Tree will open on December 9th at the Bazaar, so you can choose an ornament to support a Hulstrom family, and then you will have a week to shop for that person or family. So all gifts will be due by 12:15 to the office. We are also doing a collection drive that will kick off on December 9th at the Bazaar. We are donating all of our lost and found items, so they will be on display at the Bazaar, so you can have one last look. And then we will take them home, wash them, and donate them to Stuckey Elementary, which is 5 minutes west of here. That way it's not just going to Goodwill, it's staying in the Adams 12 community. And we're also doing a collection drive for them, which will include toiletries, hygiene items, and cleaning supplies. We're doing a class competition for donated items, and so if you read the newsletter this week, and there will be flyers going home, Each item will have a point system to it, so laundry detergent will bring in more points for your classroom than a toothbrush. And so whichever class has the most points at the end will have a hot chocolate party the last week of school. Our holiday bazaar is on December 9th. I hope that you can come and make it. There are some more spots available if you want to sign up. It's students who have created products that they're selling to the community. It's also parents and staff who have created things that they're selling to our community. Scooters is providing free hot chocolate and coffee again. PTA will have cookies. Staff are reading stories in the library. It's a really fun time. Things are priced for students to purchase items for their families for holiday gift giving. And we're also doing our tradition showcase like we did last year. So if you celebrate in a different, unique way, we have so many different cultures here at Hulstrom that we want to highlight. Last year, Kasha did Poland. This year, I'm doing Germany. Yasmina did Mexico last year. So if your family celebrates in a specific way, we just want to highlight that and share it with our community. So please consider volunteering. We also have a stipend to help you purchase things for your traditions table to help take that burden off of your plate. The last announcement I need to make is that we are looking, maybe I need to talk to you, for volunteers to help with end of year celebrations for 8th grade. Does that sound accurate? Okay. So if you are an 8th grade parent or maybe just a middle school parent and you want to help run their end of year celebrations, the planning starts now because it's a large undertaking. So if you want to be a part of that planning committee, please email Ms. Newberry.
Michelle Martin has offered to take over.
Oh,
So she'll be the lead.
Okay,
We still need volunteers.
Okay, so that's all of my updates. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I've said? Or anything coming up? Perfect. I want to introduce our first speaker. He is Brian Becker. He's the CEO of Class 5. It's an IT cyber consulting company. Brian, Class 4. What did I say?
5.
Oh gosh, Class 5. Thank you for correcting me.
That's 4.
Brian is a Hulstrom parent, and he is an astronaut. Did I say it again?
Yeah. Class 4.
Class 4. I'm really sorry. Brian is a Hulstrom parent and an astronomical Polaris level sponsor of the PTA. He is also the founder and CEO of Class 4, an IT consulting service guiding you through technology rapids. Brian will be speaking to us about cybersecurity and holiday shopping. Please help me welcome Brian.
We're streaming here,
Okay.
so stay
Okay.
within view.
Thank you all
Yeah.
for the time, and I was really inspired to get involved with Hulstrom when we took our first tour and saw big computer science and network and routing and things like that. I was like, that's like right up my alley. It's great. Tell a little bit about Class 4 very, very quickly, because nobody wants to have an ad break before we get into talking about cybersecurity and hackers and things like that. Founded Class 4 in September. Right now I'm what they call a single shingle. I run my own show. I have some clients around the United States that do things in the energy industry, but I also am open to consulting and helping on IT, cybersecurity, and data problems for any size of business and things like that. Class 4, if you're familiar with the International Whitewater Standard, it's a rafting term. So if you go down a Class 5 rapid, you're probably going to die if you don't know what you're doing. But you can get down a Class 4 rapid with the help of an expert guide. Thus, Class 4 was born. So, what do? I kind of gave you a rundown what we guide and we help uplift your business through technology, strategy, and just our general experience. We've seen a lot in my career for the last 20 years, and I'd love to help lend that to other team members or people in your businesses and your community that we can help support. Unlike a lot of consulting competitors that I have that charge exorbitant fees, they don't really care about your business. I'm very much wanting to be a partner, and that's why I entered it on my own rather than go work for them, is so that I can have a better, more personal relationship with my clients and my community. Thus, Hulstrom, right?
Yeah.
So, cybersecurity. This is not meant to scare you ever, but as you know, quarter 4 is coming up and it's here. It's retail time. It's time to go shopping. It's time to make donations to the Salvation Army. And as you know, Target, Walmart, Amazon, they look forward to this because they make most of their money in quarter 4, and guess what? So do the scammers out there. And they're getting more and more complex, they're getting more organized. In fact, we've seen in the intelligence that I see has been a rampant upswing in organized crime. That's like international cartels that have a lot of technology and in unique ways behind the way that they come after people, normal people like you guys, your dentist office, or even up to pipelines in very large organizations. And so what we want to do is be mindful of what we call risk. And the risk that we can lose as individuals, as grandparents, as teachers, is what they want, what all the scammers want is it's money. And they want to do it as quickly as possible with the least amount of interference, the least amount of difficulty. And so I often liken cybersecurity is everyone's running from the bear. And the ones that are the slowest, that aren't aware, that aren't verifying a number of things, they aren't taking certain precautions. They're going to get eaten, or they're going to lose money, they're going to lose uptime, or they're going to have their business be hit by a major cybersecurity incident. So my goal here is to give you a couple good tips and tricks that are quick off the top of your head, so that we can all enjoy steak and crab dinner and avoid the Grinch, right? So, without further ado, how do we prevent this of a Grinchy Christmas? In every single holiday, I guess, attack, where you guys need to be aware of, they're always going to attack the people. They will very rarely walk away with your laptop and then be able to hack your entire life with it. They're getting really, the technology companies are getting really good at helping secure that, as well as the banks, but they always go after the weak link, and that's you, me, and Grandpa and Grandma, unfortunately. So, number one, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of, but I guarantee this has happened to you. You get a fake email. It's called phishing. They're phishing for you to make an action. Vishing is they call you on the phone, and I guarantee you, your grandpa and grandma, your mom and dad have all been vished before. It's an industry term. They try to call you and take advantage of you. Or smishing, they send you a text message saying you need to do something, right? There's a huge pattern with a lot of these attacks that they're going to do, and number one with the bullet is always the phishing, vishing, and smishing, and this goes for your businesses as well. They want something quickly, they want you to do something without verifying it, and they want you to just give you information that might make you feel funny. It's like, hey, this is odd, why is this random person calling me? So the tips around this is that always kind of be aware in your head of the words trust but verify. And we'll get into that a little bit with the reputation matters, is that if someone's reaching out to you or stops you in the street, is like, you need to give me money right now. Otherwise, grandma's gonna die, or you're not gonna get your postal service package, or something like that. That should trigger something immediately in your head, is that, why is this happening? They want you to feel the urgency to quickly do something, and that often means, take my money and get out of my way, so I can go on to Starbucks or wherever. So, it's usually unsolicited by people you don't know, or they often will try to pretend that there's somebody else, and then if you start asking the right questions, they'll give up on you because you're too hard to get into, right? So always be aware of people that want to get into your wallets or into your line of thinking by trying to stir something up in you that might be very primal to make you want to do something very quickly. Number two is reputation matters. And I don't know if you guys have seen in the wake of natural disasters, in the wake of something in the community, you'll see random charities just pop up. And people will call you and ask you, trying to get you where they perceive the weak spot to move on your emotions, on your need to give back, on your just your altruarity, your inner goodness, right? That's what they're trying to feast on, and they will often set up a fake shop, a fake charity, a fake 501c. And again, we'll get back to number one, trust but verify, right? So what I usually do when somebody calls me and asks for money is, hey, I'm really interested in supporting you, but I'm gonna go to your website and call you back on the number there. And they're gonna be like, no, don't do that. That's because they're faking the number and they want you to give money to them, or they're gonna give you another number to call back that's not on the website. That's how you know it's a scam. This happens way more than you think, and most likely it happens to those people that are senior citizens and those people that don't speak English very well. They take advantage and prey on that. So keep grandma and grandpa, mom and dad aware of those types of things. So number three is card skimmers. Has anybody ever went to a gas station, put gas in their tank, and then all of a sudden your bank blows you up and says, hey, your card's been hacked? So this is still going on today. The tip and the trick that I usually do is I never try to hand my card to somebody ever. I always want it in my hand. And the thing that you can really do well to get around the card skimming is, number one, if there's a card reader in front of you, give it a little wiggle, because a lot of times the card skimmers will pop right off. Or number two, is even better, is use Apple Pay or use your contactless, because that usually has an extra layer of security built into it that makes it harder for them to duplicate and copy your card. So if you can, don't give your credit card to people randomly, especially if they call you and ask for it over the phone and you haven't verified who they are. And then number two, just be aware of where you're tapping, where you're touching. And a big thing that I've always advised, if you're in a good financial situation, buy physical goods with a credit card, because it has a natural inbuilt fraud protection, rather than a debit card where some banks that are maybe smaller do not have the fraud protection to give you a refund in the case that vendor is fake. So, number 4, social media oversharing. How many of you have went on Facebook or went on Twitter right now and said, hey, we're all going to Cancun for Christmas? Guess what happened in Home Alone? Marv and Larry broke into the house in all these people's homes that went on vacation and robbed them. This happens all the time. So be very careful with what you post on social media. Our whole family is going to Costa Rica for 2 weeks. That means no one's going to be in your house. No one's going to be able to pick up your Amazon packages. Just be very aware of what you share on social media. And then finally, multi-factor or passwordless is best. Everybody receives a code, or you may repeat your password. Adding another layer of security and another thing to remember, or a touch on your phone, works wonders in protecting your password from being stolen, so they can get into your social security account, your bank account, things like that. So anytime that somebody asks you, is like, do you want to set up multi-factor authentication or Face ID or a finger? You want to do that the most that you can. I even recommend using what's called a password vault, like a 1Password or a Bitwarden, that helps generate unique passwords but keeps them stored. So you just basically have to remember one really difficult password, then 200 passwords that are just all over the place, right? So that's it. That's all I have. I'd love to answer any questions. We're really thrilled to have Camden in the kindergarten here at Hulstrom, and I'm really happy and proud to serve this community. So thank you so much, PTA, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I think next time we're going to quiz you on saying vishing, fishing, and smishing 3 times as fast as you can. I learned a lot of terms in that, so thank you so much. Our next speaker is Adrian Hovey. He is a Hulstrom parent. He's a Nebulon level sponsor for the PTA. He's a financial advisor with Edward Jones. Adrian can help make sure your family is protected and your kids are ready for college. Please help me welcome Adrian to speak about 529s and college investment.
Thank you, Jana. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Like you said, I'm Adrian Hovey. I'm a financial advisor. My office is over in Westminster. My son Bear is a 6th grader here, so it's our first year as a family in Hulstrom. The reception has been amazing. Just like, this is my first PTA meeting, and the organization is mind blowing, and the things you guys have done. I mean, we're coming through Adams 12. Like, we have kids in Cotton Creek, but it's amazing. Like, you guys are A+ all the way. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much to everybody. It feels really good to be kind of welcomed and to be part of this community. So I'm here to talk about college savings accounts, obviously. Quick show of hands. Who knows about these things? Who's aware of what these already are? Got a couple people. Okay, so maybe half of you guys know what I'm talking about. Today we're just going to go over real quick 3 things that you might already know, 3 things that you probably don't know, a little bit about our state's plan, and I'll give you guys an opportunity for questions. So, given that some of you already know what this is, I'll give you some background. When I was a kid, I'm out of state, so I didn't grow up in the Colorado system. We were A, B, C, D, F, not 1, 2, 3, 4. And my parents were all about A, B, C, D, F, and they said, look, Adrian, get all A's, get into a good school, and we will figure out how to pay for college. That was the plan, right? So you fast forward 17 years, and we're sitting around the dinner table, and it's kind of like, we're filling out the FAFSA, we're looking at applications. It's for real. Like, it's intimidating to look at those numbers. And kind of starting to sweat a little bit. It's like, Dad, Mom, you know, like, I did my part. I feel like my grades were good. Like, what's going on here? And, you know, my dad gives me that sort of like old man smirk, you know, the little wink to Mom. He's like, well, he's like, Adrian, have you heard about the boat that takes kids to college? I'm like, I'm not aware of this boat. And he says, it's called a scholarship. Right? Come on, it's all parents. We gotta do a dad joke. Gotta do that. But so what ends up happening? True story. So they encouraged me very heavily to apply for the Navy ROTC scholarship, which I do and I get. And this is the vehicle that gets me into college, and I can pay for it with 5.5 years of Navy service, right? So I'm one of the very few people who actually got a free ride to school. And I'm mentioning it, it's important because number one, it's a very risky strategy to do, right? Less than 1% of American kids go to school on a free ride. Like, that is very, very rare. And the second thing is, we just didn't know in the Hovey house. I was second oldest of 6, and my parents didn't know what all the options were. I had no idea. I didn't care. I was like, I'm just getting all A's, man. Like, that's all I care about. And it was, you know, the whole plan was, Adrian's gonna get that ROTC scholarship and take care of it for us. So the long story short is, most of us who care about getting our kids into college, we're gonna have to pay for it through savings, through student loans, through out-of-pocket expenses, or maybe some combination of all three. And there definitely is scholarship money. It's out there. There's a lot of it. But the idea, like, if we're hanging on to this idea that it's going to be a free ride, there were 10,000 kids at Cornell. There were 18 in my ROTC unit. That's it. So those are the numbers we're working with, right? It's less than 1% by a factor, probably a magnitude of 10. So anyway, that's why we're talking about savings today, because we should all maybe think about having a plan if we care about putting our kids through college. So the 529, right? What is this thing? The first thing you need to know about it, it's very straightforward. It's the simplest and easiest way to save for your kid's college education. That's it, straightforward, simple, they're everywhere. It's easy to set up, it's easy to maintain, and anybody can do it. Very simple. 2, anybody can save into it. You can save into it, your family can save into it, your child can save into it, your friends can save into it, right? Everybody can put money into this thing. And like, I use it with my clients at work. It's like, if you got competitive grandparents, it's an awesome way at the end of the year to get some extra money for your kids. Like, I call my mom up and be like, hey, Mom, I don't know about this, but Tammy's mom just put another $200 into Vera's 401k. Like, what's the deal? And I hang up that phone, she's gonna do the same thing. Like, she's not gonna lose her most favorite grandma status over $200, right? So you can get some extra money in there for your kids. And like, the third thing and the best thing about it, or sorry, the second thing is, you know, there's tax advantages to this thing. Right? Like, in Colorado, we can get a state tax deduction if we contribute to it. That's awesome. The money that you save into this thing, it grows federally tax-free. So you're not gonna pay tax on it as long as you use it for education for your kid. So it's kind of got a double benefit that way. And because it's so easy to use, like, that's a fantastic benefit. And so a few things you might not know about 529s before. Does anybody have any questions about those couple things? Yes, ma'am.
I actually just had a question about Colorado specifically.
Yeah.
Well, my son was born in Illinois, and
Okay.
so when my second son was born, we were looking at Colorado, and
Sure.
we were sort of told that Colorado's 529 program was not really as robust, and so we opened it in Illinois instead. But is that no longer the case, or is that?
Sort of. So for years, yes. We did not have the best state plan for years, but I think it was 1.5 years ago, a new company called Nuveen took it over, offered a lot more opportunity, a lot more options. So we didn't have a great one for a while, we have a great one now. The main benefit though, like there's some independent organization, I do not remember the name of it, excuse me, they rank these plans in terms of how good they are. We're getting better in that ranking, and the main benefit though is you're gonna get that state benefit only if you use the Colorado plan. So I use myself as an example. I had the Virginia plan for years for that exact reason. That was a great plan. It was like a top 5 plan. And then, you know, Nuveen takes over Colorado. Now it's a whole different story. So it kind of, you know, that's a discussion that's a little bit more nuanced, but good point. Like, not all 529s are equal, but they're all transferable. So if you have an Illinois plan, your kid can go to school in Oregon. It doesn't matter. Like, all those things are going to benefit all the kids. So it's really about what's kind of like, how do you balance what you feel is a good plan versus, you know, what may or may not be available in the state. So excellent question. Anything else on what we've already covered? Okay, things you may not know. This is where it gets exciting. So the first thing you may not know is, in the same way that everybody can contribute to a 529, a lot of people can use a 529, right? Like, so my son Bear has one. If Bear graduates college and there's $10,000 left, I can give it to his sister, Lola. She could use it. Tammy, my wife, she could go get a master's degree if she wanted to, using that money. I could go to culinary school and learn how to cook. Like, anybody in the family can use that. And if Bear or Lola have kids, then we can pass that on to those kids. So there's no expiration date on this money. So it can kind of like work its way through generations, and it's very flexible. A lot of people have a stigma about these things, but it's actually quite flexible. So that's one thing. The second thing is, from a legacy planning standpoint, it's an amazing tool to pass wealth across generations. So some of you might find yourself in a position where maybe your grandparents are just die hard about your kids' education. Like, they really want to make sure your kids go to college. There's gifting privileges with a 529 that allows them to give way more than the IRS limits if they want to. So that's a nuanced conversation. I got more information about that, but just know that if that's an opportunity in your family, it's a really great deal, and it's a fantastic sort of, the wrong word is tax shelter, but it's a way to be very tax efficient about how you would transfer money through generations. And then finally, the most exciting thing to happen to 529s since my dad joke about 3 minutes ago is from the Secure Act 2.0 about a year ago. Congress passed a new act where if there's extra money in a 529, you can convert that to a retirement account for your college-age kid. It's amazing. So going back to Bear's example, if he graduates college, there's $10,000 left in his IRA, he can convert that to his 529, he can convert that to a Roth IRA that will grow tax-free until he needs it. So he gets a college education that we saved for and paid for, and he gets a head start on retirement at age 22. There's nothing else other than a winning lottery ticket that can deliver that to anybody. So it's an awesome deal. Our state, we're talking about Nuveen, the new company that took over. I've got a folder here for everybody. There's some information in there about everything I just talked about, but also about our state-specific plan. And if you have young kids at home that were born, I think, after January 1st of 2020, the state's gonna match money that you put in there. They're gonna give you $2,500 for free just for opening one of these up and maintaining it. So that's something that your financial advisor can set up for you. That's what I do for a living. I can help you with that. But basically, that's free money from the state, and there's some of you might be eligible for other grant opportunities that the state has. So if not for nothing, see if there's free money out there for you guys to start one of these things. They're amazing. There's a lot of reticence in past years because people didn't understand how else to use it. Like, what if my kid doesn't go to college or something like this? There's ways now. Like, it can be a retirement plan for them. It can be used for other kids. It can be used for other people in the family. So there's a ton more options than there used to be. And even like peeling that onion deeper, you can use it for computers and other techniques that people have developed on how to leverage these things. So I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions about what we covered, or is this triggering something that you guys want to talk about a little more? Over to you, young lady.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was wondering, so my kids have, it's called College Invest. Is that a 529?
Yep, that's 529.
Okay, so you said it had changed a little bit. Is that something that I have to like move them to, or do you think that automatically took effect?
No, probably it has already taken effect. So College Invest is kind of the way that you would go if you did not want to use the direct Colorado plan, but it is a Colorado plan. So chances are you're fine. There is some advisor somewhere who's assigned to you on your statement somewhere, worth a call just to say, hey, what's going on? Do I need to change anything? But no, chances are it's fine. There are several routes you can go, to get a 529 in the state. You can do it yourself through College Invest. The advisor plans, like what I generally deal with in my job, are through Scholar's Choice. Scholar's Choice is Nuveen. I don't know off the top of my head what's in the College Invest because we don't offer that, but it's probably fine. I mean, and if you want, I can help you look up the rankings of that, and we'll check it out.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
One other question.
Yes.
I had recalled seeing that there was a sort of like a 529 for a lot of the private schools where you could lock in like today's tuition prices.
Right.
Do you have information on?
So those are kind of going away. What has ended up happening with that is that would be like, let's say you wanted your kid to go to U of I or something like this, right? So you buy the plan that's U of I, it's prepaid tuition. And so what ended up happening with a lot of those plans that were very popular 20 years ago, tuition went up a lot. And so they gave people a discounted rate of tuition, and then when their kids were 18, all of a sudden, like, that's not enough to fund it. So those are much less popular now, and they're a little bit less flexible. They do still exist. There's a different term for that. That's not necessarily a 529, no. That's a direct sort of, I'm committing to this institution, I want to go there, and I'm gonna pay that tuition. And usually it is transferable, right? They're not gonna let it, but the amount of money that goes into that is not necessarily the same as a 529. So the advantage maybe to that is that kind of dedicates you to the school you want the kid to go to. The disadvantage might be it's a little bit less flexible. So, but they do exist.
Do you have to have like a minimum amount that you put in it? So like, can you hedge your bets and say like, I'm gonna put?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'll ask. I don't know. It's funny the way that we as advisors have viewed the college thing is changing. Like the pandemic did it a lot, right? Like we're all sort of questioning what higher ed's going to look like anyway. But I think some of that is the old conversation was, I want my kid to go to Harvard, so I'm going to save for Harvard, right? And that is out of reach for a lot of families, frankly. And so it's a better outcome for a family if they can have a college-educated kid. So now we start that conversation with, okay, well, what do we have to work with? What are the resources we have? What are the options within that landscape, right? And that seems to be a little bit more productive conversation sometimes, because now we're looking at this wider lens of possible education. You know, it may not be Harvard, but it might be many other things. And so hard to say if one is better than the other. That's kind of an individual choice, guys. So don't have an answer there. Okay, yes, ma'am.
So if you decide to convert it to a retirement fund,
Yes.
does it have to be under the child's name, or is that transferable to another family member as well?
Same as the account, it's transferable. So the beneficiary can be changed at any time. So the catch, not call it a catch, but the rules you have to abide by are the government's Roth IRA rules. So if you try to put yourself as the beneficiary and you don't qualify to do a Roth, you're not going to be eligible for that. So, but other kids could be, absolutely, down the road. Yeah. And this is so new, guys. This is a year old. So like our company, we're still trying to work through all the legal implications of that. It's there, like it's law, it's happened, it's codified, but we're all sort of working through this process of, okay, what are the options, how are we gonna do it? And I would hesitate to like, put a bow on any of that stuff right now. I'd say we need to wait like a year or two, but the thing you should all be aware of as planners now with kids is that it's gotta be in there for 15 years. So this is a long-term play. If you try to do that conversion before the 15-year point, you can't. So you might as well start now in hopes that the law works itself out. So, you know, hope in one hand and wish in the other. Anyway.
You can use your 529 before 15 years, but you just can't
100%.
convert it to a Roth.
100%.
Okay.
Yes, you are correct. Yeah, as things are today, you know. But yes, that's correct. Excellent questions, you guys. Anything else? Okay, I'm gonna stick around after the meeting if anybody's got anything they didn't want to bring up to the group. I'm gonna hand out folders to everybody. Thank you again to the PTA. You guys are awesome. Dr.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for both of our sponsors. If you are on Facebook, you can find Brian's Instagram, Adrian's Facebook, and both of their websites to connect with them virtually. Jamie would like me to tell you to please eat the snacks that we have provided. This is not a formal meeting. You can get up at any time and come get the snacks.
Eat them.
We have one more presentation from Dr. Ehrlich, and then we'll open it up to questions from the community, and that will conclude our meeting. Dr. Ehrlich will be presenting on the importance of productive struggle and strategies to support students and parents through it.
Thank you. Thank you. So when you were reading through that list of updates, I was like, oh yeah, it's been a little while since we've been together.
Yeah.
Just wanted to start first, thank you to both of you for presenting. Thank you guys for sponsoring to the level that you have sponsored. A couple of just few quick updates, maybe things. Sorry, my voice is starting to go. We had a late night here last night as well, and 6 a.m. came really early this morning. So a couple of other big things that maybe you don't know about. We had the Colorado Association for Gifted Talented. We had our state conference. It was really well attended. A bunch of Hulstrom staff members were able to go. Several of us presented, so that was really great. We also just had the National Association for Gifted Children conference. that also we were able to present at a few things, because I think one of the most amazing things about Hulstrom is we're able to take the research that is being done, put it into action, make it our own, and make it responsive to the students who are in front of us, and then go back and present it back to the field and just help the field out that way. So it's a really iterative process, which is really cool also because then we always have a lot of people coming here, visiting the school, touring the school, and also giving us that feedback, right? So it's a really great place to be. A couple of other things, I don't know if you guys saw online, we were just voted favorite magnet school by Colorado Parent Magazine, so that was great. We were really excited about that. We have been in full swing with tours. Choice window opens up soon. So I've been doing bi-weekly tours throughout the entire school year. Some of you guys have seen them. Some of you guys I've put you on the spot and been like, hey, what do you want to say about Hulstrom? So thank you for that. They've been very well attended. We also had our first parent information night last night. Some of you guys were on the parent panel, so thank you for that. Just a lot of really cool things coming on, and it's kind of fun to just tell everyone how cool our school is, knowing that I'm probably the most biased person in this room. A couple other big things, we've had a lot of staff writing grants, getting some really cool things. If you haven't seen up and down the hallway as well, all of the new bulletin boards that we can just continue to share and lift up the students' work with one another. And tomorrow we have author visits, which we're really excited about for all of elementary schools. So they'll be coming through and being able to talk to authors, which is going to be really great. We have a ton of activities, a ton of competitions, a ton of sports. If you want to, you can join me tomorrow night as well. If 2 nights wasn't enough for you, you can get me a 3rd night at the basketball game tomorrow night. So my family's really excited to see me next week. So they say. I'm just going to start really fast. We, in Adams 12, we have a new land acknowledgement. Hopefully I can read some of it. I guess it's not totally fitting on there. This is really cool because this was created by students. So we have a group of Native American high school students, and if you know anything about land acknowledgements, it really is just lifting up that population of learners for us in this district. And so they were able to share with us the whole process that they went through to develop this. And so I'm going to move back here so I can actually read it on the screen. Oh, thank you. Adams 12 5-star schools honors and acknowledges that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Native Nations, and people. Many different Native tribes have used this land for trade, hunting, gathering, and healing. We extend our respects to elders past, present, and future, and all those who have stewarded the land and water for generations. We invite others to join us in this acknowledgement to renew and reaffirm the First Nations history in Colorado and pay tribute to these traditional homelands and its people. So this is really amazing to me because one of the tenets that we have at Hulstrom is how do we lift up student voice and what's important to students. And so this is something that we have started to do as a district and that Hulstrom is wholeheartedly behind. And with that, we are going to be talking about productive struggle. So, I'm going to start off with this quote. You gain strength, experience, and confidence by every experience where you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I have lived through this, I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the things you cannot do. So keep that definitely at the forefront of your mind. And I want to really lift up Jessica Robb because she was at the last Pacers with the principal, and she's a therapist. And we started talking about productive struggle, and then I don't think she made it into a classroom because we were too busy gabbing in the hallway the whole time. So then she sent me some things for this as well, so thank you very much. So we're going to go through what is productive struggle, why is it important, how do we support it at school, how you can support it at home. It's going to be down and dirty for the time that we have. So, I love this graphic because when we think about learning, this is the top line is how we want it to be. We start something, it's this beautiful straight line, and then we achieve it, and we've hit all of our goals, and isn't that great? Whereas learning is like that bottom line, right? There's ups, there's downs, there's twists, there's confusion, there is doubt, there's, oh, maybe I'm starting to get it, but then no, I'm not, right? And then you achieve it. And that is how deep learning happens. And so what we want to do is never rob our students of that bottom line because we think that it should be the top line. So when we allow ourselves and others that we love to experience distress and challenging situations for the purpose of allowing ourselves and them to learn that they can handle tough things, if we don't allow them to engage in productive struggle, they will not learn the skills to handle productive struggle, right? We allow for the opportunity to use lots of strategies in real time without always knowing if and how they will work. But we allow this because when they do the work, they learn lots of valuable things, like how to solve future problems. Confidence, that's gonna be something that we talk about a lot. Confidence, confidence, confidence. Confidence to know that they can solve problems, confidence to know that emotions don't last forever, which is a really, really big thing for kids in a really, really scary time. We all know what happens in the frontal lobe is that if you can't see the future, then you can't see the future. And that is never a place where we want children to be, right? So I always think about it, process versus product. More is learned through the process than the product. So, why is it important? So it allows a child to experience rising to a challenge in a safe and secure environment. So that would be school, that would be home. And the other thing I just want to point out with productive struggle is productive struggle, especially for some of our students at Hulstrom, does not necessarily mean academics, right? Sometimes their productive struggle is how do I have a healthy relationship with the people around me? Sometimes their productive struggle is how can I stay organized and actually move from one class to another and keep my things in a place where I can find them and then therefore use them, right? So when we're talking about productive struggle, remember that at Hulstrom, when we look at our programming, we look at it from an academic standpoint, a social emotional standpoint, and an enrichment standpoint. And within that social emotional is executive functioning, right? So there can be productive struggle across all of those areas. And where that element of productive struggle is, changes for each child, right? Productive struggle allows for children to learn to better manage thoughts, emotions, behaviors. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about executive function, like emotional regulation, impulse control, right? Prioritization, cognitive flexibility. Healthy thought and behavior strategies are made more relevant by when used during a challenge. We learn that just because something feels uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that we can't handle it. We can sit in hard feelings and we can do hard things, right? And if we do not teach our children that they can do that, then we are robbing them of a critical life skill. And the most effective productive struggle should be practiced in a safe environment like home or school so that they're rehearsed and ready when the child eventually finds himself in a less secure situation. If we don't show them that they can handle these things here, then how are they going to walk out into the world and think they can handle it, right? And that's where that confidence piece comes in. And then if they don't have that confidence, the counter piece comes in, the anxiety. There should always be a balance between situations that cause the level of discomfort, right? I was talking about this last night when we were doing the parent information night. That's why it's not called struggle, it's called productive struggle. It's struggle with a purpose, right? It's struggle that is at like that sweet spot, that it's not overwhelming and it's not causing a nervous breakdown, but maybe they don't always feel comfortable. Other benefits, embracing productive struggle allows our children to build resilience, perseverance, and grit. So you gotta think about it, right? If productive struggle allows for that, if we don't allow them productive struggle, those are things that they will not practice and they will not build within themselves. Our children, we need them to become capable. We need them to become independent. We need them to become risk takers, right? Because the world is changing at an exponential rate, so who knows where they're gonna be. So if we don't teach them how to try new things and take those risks and be okay with learning those new things, we're preparing them for a world that we don't even know what it's gonna look like, right? Learning to accept struggle both inside and outside the classroom also teaches children how to struggle appropriately and productively, which then serves as a building block for all future learning and struggle. So, because we can't help ourselves, we're on brain science. There is the neuroscience behind productive struggle. So it actually challenging tasks spur the production of myelin, which is a substance that increases the strength of the brain signals. So like the myelin sheath that connects neurons inside of the brain, there's like that sweet spot for it. So it's not about turning on a light. Like all of a sudden, you might have aha moments, but remember what that line looks like? There's a whole lot of things that happen before you hit that aha moment. So the better that we can construct those roads, those like synapses between neurons, then the better that children are gonna be. So smart brains are efficient brains. Efficiency comes from myelating those brain wires through repeated practice and specific feedback. And we've got to be really careful about this feedback because everything that we say or doesn't say is feedback, or it can be feedback, unfortunately, right? And we work with a population of learners that are also highly perceptive. So guess what? All the nonverbal stuff counts as feedback too. The well-myelinated brain, you think about it as a field, creating learning through connections. The faster the brain signals can travel, the better off they're going to be. Repeated practice is huge. Guided feedback is huge. The brain responds by paving that road, so the more that neurological pathway is used, then the stronger it gets, right? And then that's going to lead to more confidence. And this is how I feel like our students sometimes feel towards us. You knew X was 7 the whole time and you never said anything? Yes. So interrupters of the struggle, I think this is a big piece. And I think once you understand productive struggle, nobody's perfect at this. I have 2 kids of my own plus another 700 right now. And I'm like, oh, I should not have just rescued them there. But providing support too quickly. The other thing I'll just say is like providing too much support. Offering to get students started or telling them to move on to the next step, right? If I'm always there helping them get started, how are they ever supposed to learn how to get started on their own? Right? And it's not, like I said, it's that delicate balance. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm letting them productive struggle, so I'm gonna go over here at my desk and do nothing for the next 40 minutes, right? There's that healthy balance. Suggesting that they only use one solution path. This gets really hard for some of our students, especially in math. When we're like, okay, so you found one way to do it, now go find 3 more. And they're like, what are you doing? Right? Because we're having them arrive to that piece for themselves. Which of those 4 ways works best for you? Which one's the most efficient? Rather than just saying, this one works best, this is the one that we like, so we're going with this one. Which is the way like we were all taught math, right? And then we didn't actually understand what we were doing, so then we're like, praising only the correct answers rather than the journey taken to attain them. I think, at my heart, I think I'll always be a classroom teacher. And one of my favorite things in the classroom was who made a mistake we can learn from. And my kids were like, ooh, right? Because it's about the process as much as anything else. If they always get the right answer, what are we really teaching them? So consequences of interrupting the struggle, like we kind of talked about a little bit, right? If it builds the grit, if it builds the perseverance, if it builds the confidence, then interrupting that struggle and rescuing is going to do all of this, right? Low self-esteem or self-efficacy. Self-efficacy, that idea that like I believe in myself and that I can do it. Giving up easily, increased avoidance, increased emotional reactivity, social skill difficulties, or people pleasing. So you can see where some natural traits of gifted learners can really become pretty maladaptive pretty fast if they're continually rescued, right? So how do we support productive struggle at school? So we do a lot of work around kind of that zooproximal development, right? What I was just calling that sweet spot, where one, they are challenged. Two, it is a productive struggle or challenge. And they do need help. They need us to help guide them. We need us to help facilitate them. They do not need us to do it for them, right? That's the sweet spot. And so that just shows it perfectly. If they can do it independently, why would they need us? And why would we be working on that? Because they can already do it independently. That zone of proximal development, they can do it if guided, if supported, if facilitated, and then can't do it even with guidance, right? That's that too much. That's where that struggle is just not productive anymore. Ultimately, that's what all that text just says. So when we think about learning, kind of like the line, this is essentially, we were joking when I was showing this to some people today. I was like, so what I'm gonna go up there and say is basically as a school, we dig a hole, we put them in the hole, and then we help them out of the hole. And we were like, yes, that is the analogy. But yes, facing a challenge, they end up at that bottom there, that deep learning, and it kind of shows that like that guide, that help, right? Not doing all the work for them, they are still pulling themselves up, they are still having to do it. If it was just dependent on that person to pull them up, that person would probably not get out of that pit, right? But collectively, they can do it, and then they can hit that success. And then they have that belief that they can do it. And that's super important for gifted kids because that's where that growth mindset comes from. That's where that perseverance comes from. That's where that grit comes from. And if they don't have that, if they don't develop that over time, traditionally what happens with gifted kids is they go to high school, or they go to university, or they go to an advanced graduate degree. It will happen at some point, somewhere, that they will hit an academic productive struggle. They will not know how to handle those big feelings because they've never authentically had to handle those big feelings. And what do you think they do? They drop out. Yeah, actually, traditionally speaking, and the field has developed a lot over the last couple of years, gifted was a really high dropout rate, right? Because when you're not seen, when you're not met, when you're not given like what you need in order to grow from that whole gifted child perspective, you are at risk, right? It doesn't matter what your label is. So it is very, very important. And I think that's where some of that perfectionism can get in the way. And the second then you start to feel challenged or you feel that struggle, then you're like, oh, nope, I've always been told I'm so smart. Now I don't get this. Now I'm not smart. Now I'm having imposter syndrome. Now I don't actually belong here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take myself out of this and avoid it because that's better than actually me doing anything else because this is everything that I know about my world, right? And that spiral can happen really quickly. So what we do also, besides making sure that we have we're constantly finding that sweet spot. So when we talk about knowing each child by name, strength, and need, that's us finding that sweet spot. Where is the productive struggle? And sometimes we're like, oh, maybe that was a little too easy because you got that first thing. And then other times we're like, oh, maybe that was hard because you are now having a meltdown in my office, right? I'm not saying that we always have it figured out. It's like a line that you're constantly dancing on, right? Productive struggle can be frustrating for students sometimes, but it's important for students to realize that when students are reaching their frustration tolerance level to provide the appropriate accommodations and scaffolds, right? And what coping strategies and calming strategies are we using? And when our students work through those challenges and finally achieve their goal, it leads to those aha moments, right? They don't just magically happen. That we want all of our students to achieve, because those are the moments that generate excitement, right? That's like that dopamine release of I've got it. Back to brain development, because I can't help myself. So how can productive struggle be supported at home? I mean, ultimately, right? Embrace the struggle and let it make you stronger. You know your students, you know your children better than anybody, right? So that sweet spot, what is it? What can they do independently? What do they need as you as a guide? And how much of a guide do they really need you to be? Because my son is almost 17, and if I let him kind of lead how much we would do for him independently, it's significantly more than when he was a toddler, right? Because he's just I don't know how to make food anymore. I don't know how to do this. I'm like, yes, you do, right? So you also have to be mindful of that, of can they really not do it, or they just don't want to do it, but they can. This picture, sitting beside them, right? How do you enter into that and just stay beside them and be that guide and be that facilitator without jumping in and doing the work for them? I think that's the hardest thing about being a parent. I think it's the hardest thing about being an educator, right? And don't rescue your child from a challenge, teach them how to face it, right? And like I said, those challenges are gonna be really, really different depending on who your child is and where their next step is in their development. It could be academic, it could be social emotional, it could be executive function, right? It could be within their passions and interests, right? Which also happens a lot with gifted kids, also with productive struggle and the whole avoidance thing. I really want to try this and I'm really interested in it, but other people are going to be better than me at it, so then therefore I'm just not going to do it, because if I'm not the best, I'm not going to do it, right? So other strategies to incorporate at home: acknowledge the perseverance and effort and reasoning and sense making through that process-oriented task, right? It's the process. Not does it look perfect and beautiful at the end. What was the process? How did you work through it? What did you learn, right? What would you do differently next time? Establish non-competitive learning environments by using that process-oriented activity. Process is not about a competition. And also, a lot of our kids really like to compete, right? But if you're actually in the process and you're learning and growing, and you're setting your own goals, if I'm setting my own goals and I can say I've achieved them, I haven't achieved them, it makes it a lot harder for me to compare myself to somebody else because I don't know what their goals are. And that old adage, right, comparison is the thief of all joy, is so true. Foster learning from mistakes to build self-efficacy, adopt that no-quitting attitude, encourage the curiosity, encourage the risk-taking, encourage the exploration, even if they are not going to be the best ones in the room. And honor children's prior or personal knowledge to create meaning. We talk about that a lot when students come down to the office if they're having a hard time. Well, when have you faced a problem like this before? And then it usually starts with them being never, I've never faced anything on my own ever. And then we're okay. And then we can kind of get them there, right? But we want them to remember those times where they were able to move through the struggle and come out even better and stronger on the other end. Because once they realize that they've done it once, even if it's not the exact same situation, if you've done it once, you can do it again, and again, and again, and again. And the other thing I'll just say also, I talked about it a little bit, that's super, super important. For those of you guys who don't know, there was just a very serious casualty at Shadow Ridge Middle School, and it was from a student who could not see the future, right? And so if they can't see the future, if they can't see how they can do it, that they don't need somebody beside them all the time, that they have the confidence, they have the self-esteem, they have all of these pieces to know that there is going to be a tomorrow. And you will be able to lift yourself out of it, and there will be people there this is an important thing, right? And a critical thing. And just closing again with this quote. You gain strength, experience, and confidence by every experience where you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I have lived through this. I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the things you think you cannot do. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We are going to move on to questions from the community. Are there any questions about anything that was said tonight, or any questions for the PTA? All right, I'm going to put you on the spot because I got an email. I got an email question right before this meeting started, and it is, can parents submit alternative options for picture day? And if yes, for a photographer?
Like senior picture staff?
No, instead of using Lifetime, can they, is there a process for submitting alternative photographers?
I have no idea.
Okay, cool.
I have no idea.
Great, I will let her know.
For the yearbook?
No, just for school pictures, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay,
Forward me that email. I will
Okay.
find the answer.
sounds great. Any other questions? Awesome, our next meeting is on February 27th at 6:15 right here in the Hulstrom cafeteria. Thank you for being here, meeting adjourned.